Welcome to a very special episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, the Tiger King Randhawa, and with me is my lovely and kind of sweaty co-host, Samantha Bare Knees Randhawa.
Yes, my knees are so scandalous here, and you really are a Tiger King.
Not to do with actual tigers, the beer here.
The beer here is called Tiger.
So, I guess we should start things off with, this is our travel episode. It's probably going to be just Malaysia. I think we might have to break things up.
Yeah, I think this has already felt like we've been here for a week, and I think this is our fourth day. So we're really doing a lot.
And we're at a train station, as you can hear.
Yes, Express, Terminal 104 ke bawah Tuas. Para penumpang ini bersilakan ke gate B. Terima kasih.
So I think all we're going to talk about today, or today for us, is just maybe the trip over here, because door to door, it was about 52 hours, I think. Or maybe it's just 52 hours before we went to sleep.
I think it was 52 hours before we went to sleep, because then we had a full day here in KL, and it was one of the longest, craziest journeys ever.
Ever in the history of humanity.
That I've been through.
And pretty much close for me, too. But let's start things off, and you review each leg. So first, we got up like 7-ish, or we left.
We left at 7. I think I got up at like 5:30.
And first leg was just to Vancouver.
Yeah, that was easy. I was like really out of it, so I had a really nice nap in Vancouver.
We got to Vancouver at like 9 a.m. and Sam was smart in retrospect because she said, I'm going to have a nap because we had a big layover there. You went to sleep. Of course, I didn't, because then the next leg was the 11-ish hours to Tokyo. Which
was, I think, the longest flight I've ever been on. And it was great in one way because we had so much leg room and there was so much space in front of us because we were in the exit row that we could stand up and kind of stretch whenever we needed to. But the seats were so small that it was really hard to get comfortable and stay comfortable on the flight.
Did you manage to sleep?
Maybe for like half an hour. I don't think I slept much on that flight. But I did eat pretty much constantly while we were on that plane, and I enjoyed everything that they gave us.
This was remarkable. Samantha put on a clinic of eating because you actually looked ahead and saw what the meals on the plates were. And still, whenever we had a layover, you're like, well, let's have like 3 or 4 meals here too.
Yeah, I don't know what. I think my body was just very confused about the fact that I wasn't sleeping as regularly as I do. And that I was just like tired and we were going through time zones. That the only like signal my body was giving me was hunger. And because I was just pushing through the tiredness. So I just ate pretty much constantly for like 11 hours.
Oh, and I guess this is usually a movie review show. So on the flights over, I saw the TV glow, and that was very good. I think some final act issues, like a lot of movies of that sort, but definitely worth a watch. What was your best watch on the way over?
I was really interested. I don't know if it was my best watch, but I got to finally see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is something that I had never seen for some reason. I honestly can't remember what other movies I watched. It's like a big blur.
I think you were rewatching a bunch of your favorites. I looked over at your screen and saw some Barbie, some Mean Girls, and something else we did on the podcast as well. I've already forgotten all the movies I watched. Only one of them stood out, so I guess that's the only recommendation I have.
I think I watched about 4, though, in total.
I must have as well. Yeah. So we get to Tokyo. The plan at first was to go into the city because it's quite quick, but we did see that there were some great things in the terminal there. And how did you feel about going out into the city?
I really wanted to do it. I know that we will be back to Japan soon-ish. So I wasn't too sad about not going out into the city because I know we'll do it again. But I do wish that the airport had like a little bit more to do.
Yeah, because all of the great things they have are on the outside of security. So we actually didn't get to do any of them and then ended up just stuck in the airport for 6 hours or so, which would have been great if we went into the city. But as it was, not ideal. And that was probably my least favorite part of the journey over.
Yeah, and we were both so tired, and we were just like hungry. Oh, I was hungry. But I did get to eat sushi and ramen and a Sapporo in Tokyo. So that was pretty cool, if the airport counts.
It counts, good enough. So then we get on to another flight, and then we thought, all right, we've done many hours of traveling. Surely we're close, but that's not the case. It's another 7 hours from Tokyo to KL, where we are now.
Yeah, that flight was much better. We both had aisle seats, which was really nice. We had a little bit more room to kind of spread out, because we're not big people, but these are small seats. And we had more meals. They turned down the lights. It was very dark and nice. And yeah, I just watched movies that I'd seen before that I could listen to but not have my eyes open, and I did manage to sleep a little bit. But the best part of that flight was that it was Pokemon themed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like Pikachu was on the flight. Pikachu himself? Herself? Itself.
Themselves.
Pikachu was there. All of the safety announcements on both of the flights had like animated Pokemon in them. We got some special Pokemon merch. I slept for 6 minutes. I know this because there was like a little clock, and as soon as I fell asleep, they turned on the lights for a meal service. We had so much to say about these flights, but it feels like that was a month ago, even though it was like 3 days ago.
I think I likened it yesterday to when women give birth and they're like, I'm never doing this again. And then you get like the hormones after birth and you're like, oh, let's do it again. Because I like really feel like I only remember the good parts of the whole journey. But I think I'm a pretty positive person. So I think everything was fine, and we had a good time.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it at the time. Although for a couple who is traveling for 50 hours, we do just fine. When nobody was snapping at anybody else. I think we're probably close at Tokyo, but we just sat there and ate silently for a bit. That was as close as we got.
Yeah, we definitely talked about it. We were like, I think when we get tired, we just need to be okay with not like trying to have a conversation, because I was so beyond tired that I wasn't even forming full sentences at that point. There was a lot of pointing and a lot of just walking, and but we didn't kill each other on there, and we managed to get to KL all in one piece.
And then you'd think after that's probably at 35 or 40 hours, we would go to sleep then, but we couldn't even check into our room, and then we thought we might as well just use this opportunity to get on the schedule here. And I think that's how you beat jet lag. Stay up for 3 days.
I think that was the longest I've ever gone without sleep. And we were doing really well as we were touring around KL to kind of get our bearings and everything. And I'm actually shocked at how well we did and how late we stayed out, because we ended up going to a market and we ended up getting back to the hotel at like 9:30, I think. And that was so much later than we expected to stay up.
Our first day, we went around KLCC, around where we're staying, and that is like the big famous Petronas Towers, and there's a mall there and everything. And then we went over to Petaling Street Night Market and did some shopping on the first day with no sleep.
Yeah, we didn't buy much, but we did see a lot, and the market was a bit much for me because I was so tired, but I appreciated it when we went back a couple days later.
I gotta say, I was very impressed with Samantha. Like, I traveled like this in the past and I'm fine with it, but for a first timer, she jumped right in, got right into the markets and everything. All right, we're gonna check in again. I feel like the first time we were probably pretty scattered because we were. So we're waiting for another train, so that means we are ready for another check-in. Probably should do this in a hotel, but no, let's do it here. Because we've been going. We haven't been really sitting at the hotel at all.
No, we've been moving around quite a bit. Even yesterday when we took a slow day, we still moved around quite a bit. So yeah, we've been going.
I gotta say, I'm very impressed with you, because we always talked how we travel differently and used to look in shock and dismay about how I would travel, and you jumped right in.
I feel like I'm surprising myself a little bit. I think I prepared well for the trip. I don't think anything I did was too much, and I think I like packed some correct things to do it, and being over prepared was good.
And I'm learning a lot because I am not walking everywhere this time. We have a little bit of money, so we can take subways.
Yeah.
And Grab is the app we've been using here.
Yeah, Grab has been saving us, and it's nice. It's like $2 Canadian for most of our rides that we're taking, so we're saving our feet a little bit here and there, which is good.
So this is your first time in Asia at all, and I thought KL would be a good place to start off because it's a big city. It has like a lot of the things we're used to in the Western world, because you've been to Europe and all around North America. So I feel like it's a good first place to get into and a good warm-up before we get into Bangkok. But how have you been liking it? What stands out to you?
I think you keep telling me that Bangkok's going to be like even more than KL, but it took me a couple of days to get used to how busy it is. It took me a couple of days to figure out kind of the transit system and how to get around. But I like it, and I've really kind of gotten used to the hustle and bustle, and then also just the sheer amount of things that are always around us. It's very like crowded, I guess, and cluttered with like so many things to look at. So it's very crowded and cluttered, and you just like, there's so much to look at everywhere. So it took me a while to kind of get over my like sensory overload, and now I feel like I'm doing a lot better.
What do you think is something that surprised you that you didn't expect it to be like here?
I guess you told me that like we didn't really need to speak the language and how much English there is around, and I agree. Like, I was surprised by that. And yeah, I guess just how easy it is to get around in English.
It's like a truly international city. You don't look and say like, oh, that is what a person from KL looks like, because it's everything. It's what Canada and the US often claim to be, of like a cultural mosaic, or I guess US is, what are they, they're a melting pot.
Right.
Canada used to say we're a cultural mosaic, and now we're more of a like, get out Browns. But here it's everybody. Everybody kind of is all mixed together, and it's so much harder to get a feel on like, this is what KL culture is like, because it's all things. Yeah,
it's just a little bit of everything and lots of different cultures, and there isn't like a look on the street of people. It's like so many different people from different places. So yeah, it's very cool.
All right, maybe we'll be travel guides a little bit now and go through some of the things we did. And if people are listening to this as a like KL guide, and maybe you shouldn't be, but but I think we have good different perspectives on it, because I've lived in Asia for a few years and been here a few times, and this is your first time, so I think we have good different takes on it. Mm-hmm. Almost like that's what this podcast is all about.
Whoa.
So what is something we did that stood out?
We booked a hop-on, hop-off bus tour, and it was 48 hours, and it kind of took us around the city a little bit. And so we got to kind of see some of the city and get our bearings. We saw the tower. We saw Bukit Bintang and went shopping there. And then we went to Jalan-Alor and accidentally ordered 3 big bottles of beer, which was like a happy accident.
Yeah, accidentally. And we're like, oh, we can just take one home. And then we just drank it all. But the hop-on bus, I was someone who, like, I'm one of those pretentious people who's like, oh, I'm not doing the touristy things. But it's good because it just takes you to all of the big spots. And even if you're not just going and doing the, like, pay money to go up to the top of the tower and I don't know, take pictures there. It takes you to a lot of the important hubs, a lot of the neighborhoods, and then you can get off whenever you're not on a tour group and just do what you'd like, because we took it in, and it went through Little India, and that was, I think, that was my best meal probably, because before we got here, I was talking about I need some good South Indian food, because I don't eat South Indian food. I'm Punjabi, so that's usually what I'm always eating at home, but Malaysia has some of the best South Indian food I've had outside of, South India. So I really wanted a good banana leaf thali meal, and we got that.
Yes, we did, and it was delicious. And we also, on day 3, went to the Central Market, which was a little disappointing. It was a little bit just like a craft sale that you'd see in Canada, with like a few things that might be different just based on where it is.
The Central Market was one of the bigger disappointments, and I feel like it's something that changed a lot since I was last here. Maybe it's a memory thing, but I remember it being this really crowded, not very well lit, and just stacks and stacks of textiles or knickknacks, all sorts of different things. And now it was selling avocado toast, and it's one of those craft markets where everyone has the light wood racks that they display their earrings and stuff. And it's nice. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just so different than what I was expecting. And if you're coming to kind of get those cheap Malaysian deals, then it's not the place for that.
Yeah, it was a very, very expensive. It was kind of Canadian prices for things and not things that I couldn't get at home. So we kind of wandered around and then got right back on the bus and headed to Little India to have that banana leaf lunch, which was awesome.
And we got to do some suit shopping over there too.
Yeah, unfortunately the bus does drop you off in Touristville, so everything was very expensive. But it was really cool to get to see shops in other places, and I love shopping, so I could shop for days.
We definitely have done a lot of shopping. I think that's what's changed, along with not walking everywhere and being willing to spend money. The amount of shopping I've done is something that's really different. But we did go to Little India in the tourist place at one time, but we've since been back and got to go to the kind of more off the trail part, and that was one of those situations where I was like, oh, this is classic my old style of travel, when we were sitting on little plastic chairs and there was actually a language barrier and we had trouble ordering, and that is kind of what I love.
Yeah, we definitely struggled a little bit more with language in that area, but it was way better prices, and it was very hands-on service. It's taking me a little bit to get used to that, having someone just assigned to you and waiting for any moment that you might need anything. But we definitely saw some beautiful clothes, and the prices are quite good. So.
And we bought a lot there.
Yes.
I did my biggest shopping haul. I got lots of kurta tops, kind of looser, longer t-shirts, essentially. Some long sleeve, some short sleeve, and then you bought some saris as well.
Yeah, I bought some saris. I bought 2 for, I think, just under $40 Canadian. So I feel really good about that, and worst comes to worst, I can sew it into something that I will wear more than a sari, but I'm really excited about it.
Oh, and you can hear that noise. That means our train is here. We'll pick this up in a bit. Okay, I think the tricky part of this is going to be knowing what we said already, but we are headed out of KL now. We ended up staying longer than we thought we would, which is both good and bad, but maybe we'll talk all about that in a different section, because we're not ready to get in all of it, and how our hotel was canceled on us about 12 hours before we were supposed to arrive. But let's get back on our final thoughts on KL first. Before we do some more kind of rapid fire through sights and food and things we enjoyed about it, what's something that you think we, the Western world, us Canadians specifically, could learn from KL and Malaysia?
Something we could learn from them? Probably transit.
I feel like that almost everywhere I go.
Yeah, like the amount of transit, the availability of transit all over, and the way that all their transit kind of works together seems way better than at least in Edmonton.
Definitely in Edmonton. Ours is terrible, really. But here, yeah, you can get anywhere you need to relatively quickly and quite affordably as well.
Yeah. I think most of our train rides for both of us were about $1 Canadian. So it's way cheaper, it's way faster, and everything kind of connects. And I'm sure that if we were local and we had like a monthly pass for everything, it would have been even faster.
And it's about putting that investment in the first place. We refuse to do it and build things very, very slowly. And because of that, it gets more and more expensive. But that's something for another day. What is something that KL could get from us?
Shower doors and flat floors. There's so many little steps everywhere that I smashed my toes quite a few times going in and out of the bathroom in the middle of the night. But shower doors for sure, because our first hotel here in KL was just it was like a swimming pool on the floor. It was wild that's okay.
Yeah, there's a ledge to almost every shop you go into, and going from one room to another in an apartment, but where there is no ledge is coming out of the shower, nor is there a door a lot of the time. And I lived in Korea, and that's how my shower was there. I had nothing. It was just shower next to your sink, next to your toilet, and everything gets wet all the time. And there's a few places that would have a bit of a ledge. Sometimes you'd get a shower curtain, but that was rare. Yeah, just enclose it. Enclosed showers make sense.
Yep, absolutely. And then you don't have to worry about spraying water everywhere. And I think I'm faster when I don't have to worry about that.
And every time you need to get something out of the bathroom, your socks get wet. But that's why you have little slippers outside. But that's just an extra step that we don't need. So let's go through some of the other things we saw here that we didn't talk about. I don't think we talked about our visit to the Batu Caves yet.
No, that was amazing. It was so very hot, but it was so cool to get to see something in that scale of size. It was one of the biggest things I think I've ever seen.
What is it for people who aren't familiar?
It is a Hindu temple inside a million-year-old cave.
Yeah, there's a kind of a network of caves, and we paid a little extra to go into this one that tells the story of the Ramayana through big life-size statues, sometimes life-size, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but all of these statues, and you climb in through this cave, and it's dark in there, but they have it specially lit up. And then the Batu Cave, the bigger, more well-known part was free admission, and when you go in, you have to climb up quite a few steps, and there are a lot of monkeys around, but the monkeys are very well fed.
Those were nice monkeys, and it only took me just a little bit of time to get used to monkeys running around everywhere, but then it was okay. The big thing about Batu Caves is that you climb a lot of stairs, and that was very hard in the 33-degree heat.
But then when you get up, you go into this big cave, and there's the temple up there, and then the cave opens up, and it has kind of, I guess, a skylight? I don't know what you'd call it, but you can see the sun, and all the way up through this essentially vertical tunnel, there's greenery, and it's always kind of dripping water on you. It's pretty impressive. But something that's changed since the last time I was there is now there are all sorts of restaurants and proper plumbing and stuff downstairs, and it's a big tourist place with a lot of tour buses and tour groups. So usually in places like that, the food is terrible and expensive, but so surprisingly, we found the exact opposite.
It was some of the cheapest food we had on our trip, and it was some of the best. We had some incredible South Indian food. We were able to sit and have some cold drinks, and it was a very nice little rest before we ventured out again to get on the train.
because we thought we'd just have a little snack to tide us over until we got back into the city, and we ordered one thing to share, and it was so good that we ended up ordering 3 more things, and quality dosas. I love a coconut. So far in this week in KL, I've had 5 coconuts, I think 4 mangoes, 2 dragon fruits, 3 dragon fruits. So my fruit count is doing well.
Yeah, I think I've lost count of the amount of beer I've had, but I've had 5 tanghulus and 2 pad thais.
And we're not even in Thailand yet. What's a tanghulu?
It's sugar-coated, like cooked sugar syrup on fruit. And then it's like shocked in cold water, so it becomes like crunchy and crispy.
So it's a sugar shell on fresh fruit.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to describe it. And I've had some really good ones, and I've had some really terrible ones. And I think I've overpaid for all of them, but I really enjoy eating them.
That's how Sam gets her fresh fruit, is coated in sugar. What is something else we did that you really enjoyed?
We went back to Jalanalore, or not to Jalanalore, to
Pedaling Street?
Paddling Market, yeah. And we were more with it. We were awake this time. And we were able to wheel and deal our way into some good prices on some stuff.
Pedaling Street is a bunch of shops. It's kind of 4 streets. There is some food there, of course, but it's mostly little tiny stalls. It's a big giant market. A lot of knockoff stuff. So if you want your fake bags, there's a bunch here.
We also got 2 pairs of, what are they called? Jordans?
Yes, Air Jordans, the Nikes.
They're currently on my feet. I don't know why I struggled with that.
We'll see, because you're more in the market for bags. So we'll see how it compares in Thailand, because you didn't get one here.
No, I decided I'm going to wait and go to the bag mall in Thailand and see if I can find something in Bangkok. But yeah, I had a great time the second time we went to pedaling because we were with it a little bit more.
Another place that we ended up going multiple times to, just out of necessity and also because we really liked it, was Jalanalore. That is it's a street that is lined with restaurants, and then in the evening time, those restaurants spread out into the street, and it's mostly pedestrian, lots of little stalls, lots of food, lots of beer, and our specialty, which was the 3 660 milliliter bottles of Tiger. They bring it out in a big bucket full of ice, and you have a good time.
And it was about $20 for these 3 big beers. And it's kind of the perfect thing for the heat. And I also had my best pad thai ever.
We'll have to check in on that, because you said this place had your 2 best pad thais, but we are currently waiting for our flight to Thailand, so I'm thinking that record might fall soon. If you go off of Jalanalore, all those shops around there are pretty great too. And we got to go to some where there were no tourists. And not to say that we clearly are tourists, so we're part of the problem. We can't complain about that. But some of those places without the tourists tend to be cheaper. I thought the food was a bit better, but that was just me.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to go down like the back alleyways of Jalanalore and see the little places. We ended up in kind of like a food court place one time when we went there, and it was just a bunch of little tiny stalls all together with seating, and we were able to eat a bunch of different things, and it was all locals, it seemed like.
And that was some really good food. Another place where we had a lot of good food was close to KLCC, where we were staying at first. There is essentially a food court that's outdoors at night. They had live music. Everywhere has live music.
Yeah, it seemed like there were so many little buskers everywhere, and they are all very popular.
Yeah, some have big followings and would get a big crowd. And it's not like that there's just a busker on the street corner. It seems like they worked for the street or the festival or all of these different places we were at, because they would have kind of a schedule where they would move around to different places. And that was pretty great. When we came in, the guy was singing an Audio Slave song, and I knew the words, so I was like, oh, this is interesting to be hearing here. But there was lots of food trucks. That was pretty great too.
Yeah, getting to sit and see the towers, the Petronas Towers, and be in this little kind of enclave of food trucks was like a very cool experience. And I think we mentioned earlier in the episode, it's almost Chinese New Year here, so there's like beautiful lanterns everywhere we go to. So it adds to the ambiance.
I really do like being in different countries when you are getting a chance to see or be close to one of the big holidays, because everything changes. Like going to Edmonton in January is terrible. You come right before Christmas, things seem a lot more magical, right? So being here just before Chinese New Year, I'm sad we don't get to be here during it, but we'll talk about how that goes because we'll be in Bangkok then.
Yeah, I'm excited to experience even more of Chinese New Year.
We also did a day trip to Putrajaya, which is a separate city but very close, almost attached to KL. And this is a lot of the kind of government buildings and also a fantastic mosque. So really, we went to the city kind of square park. There's a lot of greenery. There's a lot of tree-lined streets. The paths for biking there are very nice. And although super hot, it's a little easier there because there's so much green, it feels a little bit better. We don't have nearly as much as those tall buildings that KL has. But the main reason we went was the Putra Mosque, which is famous for being kind of a rosy pink color.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. All the tile work and everything is so intricate, and it's pink, which is pretty great. Also, because it was a mosque, we had to cover up, and so I ended up wearing this giant robe, which was not all that pleasant in the heat.
And these robes were just kind of big red Handmaid's Tale-esque robes that you got to put over whatever.
Yeah, when I first saw them, I was like, "Oh, that's a little creepy," because it's all these like women walking around in red robes. But yeah, I definitely thought it was worth it, I guess, because we got to see the inside of this mosque, and it was very, very cool.
And this one's a harder place to kind of review or give tips on, because all of Putrajaya was just seeing these amazing buildings, the government buildings, the mosques, the bridges. There's so much nice stuff to just look at. We weren't exactly doing things as much as just walking around and taking it all in.
Yeah, it's a lot of like looking at things and not a lot of doing things, but it's definitely worth going.
Another area that was pretty great was Bukit Bintang, and there's big shopping complexes everywhere, but I think it's Sagai Wang Plaza we spent some time in.
SG Wang, yeah. And I got a sundress and you got a t-shirt, and they just had like so many shops. It was a bit of a maze, and you kind of lost the entrance that you came into as soon as you turned a corner.
And then when you get out of there are a lot of great restaurants. That area I guess it's kind of known for that, and we never had trouble finding something to eat. Well, that's not true. We were spoiled for choice, and then we would often do the thing of like, well, this one looks a little better. Oh, how about that? How about that? And we ended up kind of not getting something as quickly as we could because we were just looking at all of the different options.
Yeah, it was interesting to be so hot and so tired and then try and make a decision about what food you wanted. And I think we waited a little too long, a couple of days, just because we were having trouble making decisions in the heat and not feeling very hungry because of the heat as well. So the heat will get you.
It'll get you. And a good remedy for that heat were rooftop pools. I haven't been someone who could afford a hotel with a rooftop pool before, but if you can afford it anywhere, it's probably KL. We had a really nice one on, what floor was it on in our first hotel? I think it was 47.
Was it 47? Okay, that was a tall building. But yeah, it was lovely. It was full of kids, which was a little hard, but we definitely took advantage of it, and you had a beautiful city view, and you got to see all the lights, and we went up a couple times during different times of the day, so we got to see kind of all the different lights of the city.
We also got to see all of the Instagram influencers. Oh, no, wait, no one's on... Old people like me are on Instagram. All the TikTok influencers doing their pool photo shoots up there with the city beside them.
Yeah, and a lot of really long photo shoots. I'm always surprised at how long people spend taking photos. And we were like, yeah, okay, got my 3 photos. Cool, let's swim.
But we don't do it for a living.
No, you're right. We don't do it for a living. But I would be willing to if someone's willing to pay me.
Yeah, pay us and we will do all the photo shoots. And speaking of influencers, you found a place for us to go to that you found on TikTok?
Yeah, I ended up doing a lot of my research through TikTok. The algorithm just kept sending me really good stuff. We ended up going to Pingman Square to their Chinese New Year market, which was very much like a younger crowd, lots of very Instagrammable places, or TikTokable, I guess. And we got to kind of taste some local food, as well as finding our craft beer place of the trip.
Yeah, so Pingman is kind of a pop-up space, and it changes for different things. This was the New Year's market, and it looks like a lot of those Instagram-y type markets with the way it's colored, the aesthetic of it all. And it was good because you can't be too much into the well, I need the authentic thing. This is the authentic thing because this is what all of the local people were doing. There were not many tourists there. It was more expensive, a little more upscale, but it was very interesting to see because we get to see what a different crowd of local people is doing. I tend to go to the places where locals are going to have a drink after work. This was the place where the local students were going after class, maybe, and maybe it's some of the wealthier people, but still, it was a lot of fun. We got to see a very cute dog. His name was Maru. If you're listening, Maru, we love you. And they had some live music there as well. The craft beer, because in Malaysia you can only sell beer if you brew a certain amount. So I'm not sure if it was the most legal, but maybe it was just because it was a kind of a craft sale that I think craft sales mean you can sell craft beer, right?
I think so. It's in the title.
It was the best beer we had here taste-wise. Of course, the best beer is kind of like the first one on a really hot day. But it was from someone who called the brewery One, O-N-E, because one stands for one is never enough. I love acronyms where the first letter is also the acronym.
And he was really nice. We chatted with him a little bit about brewing and stuff, and then he offered us a deal. It was 5 beers for 100 ringgit, which I'm now blanking on how many dollars 100 ringgit is, but we were like, no, we'll just get the 2, and then we were like, we could probably do the 5, so we came back and he gave us the deal.
It was the most expensive beer we had, but it was also the best. And, every now and then, here we can afford to splurge because the base price is just so much cheaper than at home. Well, I think we're going to wrap up our KL episode here, but maybe a few last thoughts. One, the scale of the city is so bizarre for us and so hard to comprehend because every building is so tall. There are probably 100 buildings taller than any building we have in Edmonton here. And it's weird when you can see something and you're like, oh yeah, it's right over there. I can just walk to it. And then it turns out it's so far away because these buildings are so large and the mall complexes and everything like that. Yeah,
it's crazy. We can't tell how far away things are. I'm so used to being able to be like, oh yeah, it's so and so far. There's so many big roads in the city too that you don't take into account when you're thinking about walking. And so our Google Maps, when we'd say oh yeah, it's a 15-minute walk, but if we jaywalk across a giant road, it's actually like a 2-minute walk.
And jaywalking here is a lot easier than in like Vietnam. Vietnam is scary, but here pretty easy.
Yeah, I think we got a lot more confident crossing roads and stuff towards the end of our time here.
Another thing was just, people are the same and different everywhere, and we like to think as Canadians we're very polite, but I don't get like yelled at on the street in KL like you do in Edmonton. So you can't say like people in Malaysia are nicer. Maybe it's just a different way, but what I do appreciate is how maybe more considerate of their space people are in cities where space is so limited. When you're on a subway or a bus in Canada, you're going to get bumped around. People are going to talk loudly on their phones. They seem to care less about taking up extra space. While here, people wear headphones if they're watching something on their phone. They talk more quietly in crowded groups, and every time we did hear someone playing videos out loud on their phone, which is very common in Edmonton and much to both of our annoyance, every time we saw that here, it was always a foreigner.
Yeah, so we tried to follow the rules that everyone else was following that's from Malaysia. Every so often there was a tourist who was just playing videos at full volume too, and I just don't understand why you'd ever want to do that, but that's me.
Or children. Children, I guess, get a bit of a pass, but then their parents don't, so they should be on that a little better.
Yeah, I was shocked at the amount of children playing games or videos just like fully out loud.
But still way less than at home. It just stands out more here because not everyone's doing it here.
Yeah, so it's always interesting seeing how other cultures do things that we do every day.
Any final thoughts on KL?
I'm like honestly a little sad to be leaving. I feel like I got really acclimatized and I was ready to just continue exploring Malaysia, but now we're off to Thailand.
I think this one will always be special for you because this was your first city in Asia, just like kind of Bangkok was my first travel experience. I lived in Korea, but it's different living and going on vacation, and Bangkok was my first vacation in Asia, so that one is always going to be special for me, just like I think KL might be for you. But I guess final thoughts, I like it here, and it's somewhere we'll probably come back to because it is such a travel hub, especially for cheap travel, and it has some of the cheapest nice hotels in the world, so it's good for that. So if you're looking for a budget vacation, it's a good one. Food and stuff isn't going to be as cheap as Thailand, but hotels and flights are cheaper, and that can help offset it that way. So come visit KL, which is like a truly multicultural city. And I've been to maybe 4 cities in Malaysia, and of course very, very different from KL, but I still enjoyed all of those as well.
Yeah, so we'll talk to you again when we're in Thailand.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Minta bahagian Asia pesawat ATN 873